Hey there, it's Release to Results. It's A Course in Miracles. It's letting go through the Course in Miracles workbook. Today it's lesson 45. God is the mind with which I think. Now, so many of our thoughts, you may have noticed this when we're on these different feeling frequencies, there's a lot of thoughts that are there. And when we let go of those feelings, those thoughts go away. And it's like the thoughts get truer and truer and truer, and it's less thinking and more knowing. So today we're going to release through some of these thoughts that aren't even true to discover what real thoughts are, what real thinking is. God is the mind with which I think. So, as we hold this idea in mind, we'll just allow up some of the other ideas, some of the other thoughts that come up that maybe don't feel so good, maybe don't seem very much like God or fill you up. Could you allow those thoughts to come up? Just notice them, and the word that's coming to mind is reject them, but let those thoughts pass by. Notice the feeling beneath those thoughts. Let it go and see if it remains. If you let it go and the thoughts are gone, maybe they were never real. Maybe they weren't your real thoughts. So enjoy this, have fun with it if you can. God is the mind with which I think. Lesson 45. Could you allow yourself to just come to a state of being, first of all? Just allow yourself to close your eyes and to just be that which is the witness of all this thinking. And just letting any thoughts that are there now drift by without following them. And could you just allow yourself to be? And allowing yourself to be with the idea today. God is the mind with which I think. And just allowing yourself to be with this idea. Could you allow yourself to be with this idea? God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. And just being there, could you allow up some of these thoughts that don't leave you feeling whole? Any thoughts that have been coming up in your experience that you've been witnessing from your being that might seem negative, might not feel so good when you're thinking those thoughts? And as you're being just observing, could you take one of those thoughts? And is this thought you? And if it's not you, could you let the thought drift by without following it? And just notice any energy that's being carried behind a thought like that. And is this energy you? Is that what you are? Is that your being? And if not, could you let it go? Would you let it go? Just a choice. When could you let it go? Just letting go of any thoughts or energy that aren't even real, aren't even you. And could you allow yourself to be? just for now, just ignoring the thoughts, just being. And could you allow yourself to be with this idea? God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. Could you be with this idea? God is the mind with which I think. And as you're being, could you simply watch some of these thoughts you think, just opening up the unconscious, the subconscious? What are some of those thoughts you think, worries, anxieties, wants, not wants? And could you take one of those thoughts and just watch it for a moment with your being? Is this thought what I am? And if not, could you just let that thought drift by without following it? And is there some energy behind a thought like that that seems to be lingering? Could you notice that feeling, that energy from your being? And could you check in? Is this feeling, is this energy me? Is it my being? Is it what I am? And if not, could you release it? Would you release it? You never have to. And when could you release what isn't even you? What isn't what you are? And allow yourself to be what you are. And could you just be what you are for a moment? And could you allow this idea of today with your being? God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. And could you be and allow up to your awareness some of the thoughts that seem not so holy, not so godly? What are some of the thoughts you thought before, maybe even thinking they were real? Judgments, opinions, goods and bads, fears and wants. And taking any one of those, could you just watch it with your being? This thought about this, is it even real? Is it what I am? And if not, Could you let it drift by? Could you just let the thought go and notice any energy that may have been carried in your awareness behind the thought? And just feeling, watching, noticing this feeling for a moment as you're being. Is this feeling what I am? And if not, could you surrender this feeling? Give it up? Would you surrender this feeling? Give it up. Optional. Don't have to. You're free. When could you surrender, give up this feeling, and return to being what you are? Focusing on that. Could you open up and be what you are? God is the mind with which I think. Could you be with that for a moment? God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. And as you're being, can you notice any sense that you are in some way separate from the mind of God? Is all divine thought separate from you, or has it ever seemed like that? Could you notice any seeming separation from the mind, the thoughts, the knowing of God? And that's okay without judging it or moralizing about it. From your being, could you just notice what it feels like to seemingly be separate from the mind of God? Could you notice this energy or this feeling of separation, whatever it feels like for you? And is this separation from the mind of God what you are? If not, could you let it go? Would you let it go? Yes or no is fine. When could you let it go and be at one? And just allowing yourself to be at one, what you are just for now. God is the mind with which I think. Could you allow that idea? Could you be with it? God is the mind with which I think. Just being with this idea, could you do that? Could you be aware of this idea? God is the mind with which I think. And that might sound nice, though, does it seem as if you're apart from the mind of God, separate from it, as if it's somewhere out there other than right here? Or has it ever seemed that way? And that's okay. Could you notice the energy or feeling of separation from the mind of God? Behind the thoughts, there's a feeling. Could you allow it? Not to make more of it, to bring up and move through any of this energy of separation. And could you allow that energy to move just a little bit, just being aware of some energy? And is this energy you? And if not, could you surrender it? Give it up. Would you surrender it? Give it up. When could you surrender it? Give up separation and be at one with the mind of God. Could you be with this idea? God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. Could you be with this idea? God is the mind with which I think. And could you allow yourself to be with whatever comes up for you as you think with the mind of God? Could you allow yourself to think in with the mind of God just for now, maybe for eternity? Could you allow yourself to witness the thoughts with the mind of God? God being the mind with which you think. And just allowing thinking with the mind of God. Is it different? Does it seem more real, more true? Is there any resistance to the thoughts of God and the mind of God? Is there any acceptance and relief in knowing Just witnessing what comes up for you, being with this idea. God is the mind with which I think. And could you allow that idea today, witnessing what comes up for you? And could you release anything that isn't you, that's just coming up, that's just passing, to come to experience more and more of what you are behind all those thoughts? And happy to help you release anything that isn't you, anything that is seemingly in your way with being what you are. We have sessions every day at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to help you to let go, give yourself an opportunity to release and unlock greater happiness and freedom in any area of your life. Just visit us at releasetoresults.com for 14 days, free access to all of the sessions, the session replays, our community. Love to see you there, and we'll love to see you in more of these live Course in Miracles broadcasts. Have the best day you can.